Genesis Mining.
Hi everyone, I'm Phil Salter, Head of Operations at Genesis Mining, and I want to talk today about scaling issues that you'll probably run into while trying to get your data centers bigger, and also when you have several data centers around the world compared to just one. As a quick background, we've been mining for quite a long time. So Genesis Mining has been doing industrial scale mining since 2013, and I would say we've pretty much seen it all at this point. We've worked with different types of hardware, so GPUs of different manufacturers, ASICs of all different manufacturers, different software, firmwares. We've seen different kind of climate zones, from minus 40 degrees Celsius in crazy winters, 40-degree hot summers, extremely strong wind speeds, especially in Iceland. Like the wind is quite amazing in Iceland. And the cooling systems and the data center designs that are needed and suitable for these kinds of different climate conditions. I think that no one can say that they managed to deal with these things on the first try without getting something wrong, especially as a miner, where you have to kind of experiment with cooling systems and making things work at a low cost, but still while keeping your devices secure. Well, we've spent the years building data centers, small in the beginning, later hundreds of megawatts, in sites all around the world, and we've experienced all these different conditions, and we've found our kind of ways to solve the issues, both technically and also organizationally, that come up when you're trying to scale up higher. And yeah, I hope I can mention some interesting points that you haven't thought about before. The first point I'd like to talk about is data center design and construction. This is what I was talking about with cooling systems and buildings and containers and so on. This is a very complex topic, and it's very easy to do things wrong. When you're building in a small scale, you'll probably be retrofitting an existing building, right? You'll find a building, rent it or buy it, which is an additional cost, and then you'll find a way to put electrical installation inside and some cooling system that makes your miners inside run securely. Definitely, the cooling system will need some tinkering. Almost definitely, you'll have lots of manual intervention, like turning on fans, turning off fans, depending on the outside weather. Almost definitely, the existing building that you're using is not actually optimal for what you want to build, and you have to work around it and make compromises in order to get anything running at all. When you're scaling bigger, there's several changes that you need to make in your thinking to get to make this work on a larger scale. First of all, you don't want to be using existing buildings, because the existing building always costs money to buy or rent. You have to work around the quirks of the system. Instead, you should be thinking more freely about this. Maybe you want to build a new building that's perfectly suited for your data center. Then again, you have the issue. If it's perfectly suited, it's still it's great and all, but probably you still have to engineer this product specifically for your application, and then you have to do the foundation and have all the construction companies come in, lots of planning, lots of execution time, high cost also for building something like this. And then I'm not even going to start talking about land permits and building permits. It's a mess. The best way to go forward with this is to have modularized solutions. So you don't want to have you don't want to have a fresh solution for every new site that you want to build a data center on. You want to have a modular solution where you've perfected one mining module, piece of hardware, and you found a manufacturing partner for manufacturing these modules quickly and securely and with quality control. Just ship them to the site that you want to install them to, and with minimal on-site labor, install the finished modules on site. I'm saying modules because it's not always containers, but I think containers are a really good example. An additional problem that this solution tackles is the locality of the data center. If you're mining in the smaller scale, most probably you'll be mining close to a populated area. There'll be department stores, there'll be some IT service providers, there'll be some construction companies. But when you scale larger, most probably you'll be getting further and further away from populated areas. Right? There's many mining farms close to hydro dams or in the middle of some deserts, or just far away in some, pretty far away from the civilization. That's where the power is cheap, right? So all your ideas that you have about just getting companies and contractors to help you out, that'll get harder and harder the further you go away outside of the populated area. So basically, the bigger you build, the more important is this modularization and the off-site construction of these modules. What we've been working on internally at Genesis Mining is actually exactly this, a modularized solution. We're calling it our air-cooled data center container. And it's a 40-foot shipping container fitting 780 kilowatts of miners inside. We've managed to find great sourcing options for this, making industrial scale production a breeze. We can produce like 100 of these per month, so no worries there. And what we are especially proud of with this container is the automatic attemperation of intake air. You often have an issue, especially in cold climates, of intake air into the container being too cold and damaging your miners. So what this container actually does, it recirculates hot air from the miners back into the intake with a proper mixing procedure to make sure that your miners are never sucking in that minus 40 degrees Celsius air. I haven't seen anything like this in the market, so I think it might be interesting for everyone. Feel free to come to our booth after the talk and discuss it with our engineers. We're happy to offer it for customers. All right, the next topic I want to talk about are software solutions. So you can't run a data center without thinking about software. Those two are linked. Monitoring solutions are nothing new in the market, right? Everyone's probably tried a couple, everyone here in the audience. Everyone might have a favorite or so. And the market is getting actually bigger and bigger. Still, when I look around the market for what's actually out there, there's several issues that I see with monitoring solutions currently. First of all, many of them have a vendor lock-in. Actually, these are not solutions meant purely to maintain the farm and to give you as much flexibility and overview over the entire operation as possible. Many of them are actually geared towards maintaining a certain set of hardware. For example, the vendor of the monitoring solution might be a pool, and it only works with that pool. It might be a firmware manufacturer, and it only works with that firmware. It might be a hardware manufacturer, and then it only works with that hardware. This is not what you want when you're scaling bigger. When you scale bigger, you won't have a homogeneous farm anymore, with all the same device type running the same software in one farm. It'll be, you'll have different patches here. Maybe you'll have customers that have a special requirement for this, maybe different cooling conditions in this part of the farm, something like this. You want to have one solution that makes sure to monitor them all. Otherwise, you're just dealing with the installation and the management of all these different management solutions instead of actually benefiting from having one solution for everything. Another issue with the existing management systems are that usually, more often than not, these are developed not by large-scale miners that actually have the requirements and are actually building a product coming from those requirements, but they're actually more like startups. Having a good idea for a product, trying to develop it and sell it, which is great, but they don't know the exact needs that a miner actually has. And they have difficulty understanding what are the do's and don'ts of running a mining operation. So there's often a problem there. Another point is remote access. Many think that that a solution like this is only needed on site. Actually, it's not true, right? The bigger you scale, the more you'll want to have remote access to your mining farms and not actually have to go inside the mining farm to understand what status it is. We've been developing this solution like this for us in-house also. And we've been calling it Genesis Hive. You might have heard of it. Now we've revamped it, kind of rebuilt the whole thing according to our new needs and to our new understanding. Hexa is the new project name, the revamped project. And we're calling it an enterprise-grade mining management solution. Now this is a long kind of subtitle for a product, but let me explain the different parts of that description. So it's a management solution, not a monitoring solution. The difference I see there is very important. A monitoring system checks data and displays it for you. That's fine. A management solution will also allow you to define configuration for your machines to make sure there's automation features that kind of handle as much manual work for you as possible. It tries to make your life easier and trying to reduce the amount of manual labor needed in your farm. This is the management aspect of it. And then the other part of it is the enterprise grade, right? So what do we mean with enterprise grade? The important part is if you're a small miner, maybe just mining for yourself, maybe you have a partnership with someone else, it's kind of easy to keep track of things. And if something goes slightly wrong, you'll probably be able to work it out. Now, what if your requirements are higher and you have more different kinds of customers? You have investors, you have partners, you have audits maybe coming, auditors trying to understand your operation better to give you a certification. If any of these things are happening to you, you will need more data. It's not good enough to show a screenshot and say, hey, yeah, this is the proof that everything's fine. No, there'll be questions like, oh, back in 2018 in September, there was a 5% drop in the performance of the farm. How did that happen? And you'd better have a good answer. So the bigger you scale, the more data you actually need, and the more data retention you also need over time in order to fulfill your requirements. Better start with this early and then have it once you need it, than to only notice that you have a problem once you already need it and then you don't have the data. This is very important. Also, there's a bunch of very interesting things you can do once you have all this data collected over time. We have very, very detailed reporting features, for example, that allow your finance department to just export all the data they need from what transactions came, what the pool performance was, what was the performance of the farm, how much money did that downtime last week cost you, all these kinds of metrics. Why calculate them manually if it's obviously automatable? So we've baked everything into this software that we can possibly think of in order to replace manual labor and to replace it with a one-time automatic solution. Please check us out at the booth to understand more about Hexa and to maybe talk to our product manager, Niklas, who's also here. All right, we've talked about hardware and software. Now I want to mention also a third topic, which is easily overlooked when you're talking about these technical subjects. But can't be overlooked. You can automate all kinds of things. Software can do all kinds of amazing, interesting things. But in the end, it comes down to the people that you're working with to make sure that from the hardware side, everything's running. And no one can replace the experts that design your farms, that help you keep everything updated, and then make sure that you're following industry best practices. No software can replace that. What we've noticed is that once you have your technical team working the data center and fixing everything, everything seems fine and easy to manage. As soon as you open a second location, now you're in trouble, right? The experts can't be in both places at the same time. And if your structure isn't set up to account for that, then you might even have to hire a completely new team and double the amount of employees you have for the second location. This will be a huge overhead in terms of not just like labor costs, but also you need the knowledge transfer to somehow work. And let's not forget the management overhead that a doubling of your personnel will mean. This is easily overlooked, management overhead. The solution for the issue that experts are not always available in every single farm is to actually fully embrace that concept and to split your teams, your technical teams. The on-site teams that are actually at the data centers, actually replacing the fans, replacing the PSUs, making sure the electrical installation is kind of working and making sure everything's going on day to day. These should not be your, you should have a team like this in every of your locations. And what you should have centrally and not on each of the local teams is your expert core team. Right? Your team of technical experts in the area of, let's say, cooling, IT, software, networking. There's always something that goes wrong with the network. Electricians, mechanical engineers. Your core team that is really like the task force that knows how to tackle and solve any kind of problem. This should be separate from the teams in each of the farms, unless if you want to avoid large overheads. This is actually exactly how we also structure ourselves internally in Genesis Mining. We have central locations with offices with like the think tanks of the experts all sitting together. And then we have our different locations around the world that have people excelling in technical engineering and in miner maintenance. We would be very happy to see you come to our booth to talk about this topic too. Generally, I'd like to mention Genesis Mining. We've obviously seen a lot. We're happy to support with any kind of part of your operation if you're thinking about doing large-scale mining. So no matter if it's about the farm design or the build-up or the operations or the software you need for it, or even just some, let's say, consulting about the services for how everything fits together, we're here to help, and we would be very happy to hear for your individual requirements. Thank you very much.
'27, I've got both of these.